Hello everybody. Megan Taslaman here in Thyroid Healthy Balance, where tonight I'm delivering a deep dive into what I call the first pillar for thyroid wellness. Now, you may or may not have received my ebook. If you haven't and you're watching this, even if it's in the future, like today is 30th of October 2024, even in the future, if you're watching this and you're looking at this and you'd really like a copy of the first pillar for thyroid wellness, just drop first pillar for thyroid wellness or first pillar ebook and we will send you out a copy. There is a likelihood that whenever you're watching this in the future, it has been revised and updated, because just like everything, it's really important to visit the science and going on. And of course, as I evolve as a practitioner, I have more. And tonight I'm going to be discussing the first realm, which I call the physical realm, which is the first pillar for thyroid wellness. Now, we need to start somewhere. I've been there. I'm actually teaching my clients the exact steps that I went through for myself. Okay? And this is what I do. This is my forte. This is my set of skills. This is my level of expertise that I have to offer here on the planet, if you want to go globally. All right. So here, let's discuss and go through the first pillar for thyroid wellness so that you can get an understanding and just start to really feel into what that first pillar may look like and feel like for you, and if it resonates. I'm telling you now, your thyroid condition, whether it's underactive, overactive, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, or any number of variances in between, subclinical, like so many different levels of thyroid wellness, because it is a spectrum. There's no defined diagnosis. I don't believe there is. That's why we have what's called a swing thyroid as well. Okay, so once you actually understand exactly what's going on in your body and you understand the drivers, exacerbating factors, and essentially the root cause or root causes, because we're not linear. It's like A plus B equals C. It's not like this happened, so I've got that. It's multi-complex. It's multifactorial. So what I like to discuss and what I'm really passionate about is empowering individuals like yourself to really take back that power and ownership about your health. Take back that autonomy. Take it back. It's yours. As opposed to, being kind of like a puppet on strings. Do I up the medication this week? Do I down the medication next week? Is this a quick fix? Not necessarily. But what else are you going to do? You're going to be manipulated by the numbers on the pathology report for the rest of your life? Upping and lowering your medication to suit? Not really understanding what throws it out at any one time? Seriously, this is why I'm passionate about it, because I've seen people, and, with all due respect to all the beautiful doctors, they have a set of parameters in which they need to work. They need to work within a set guidelines. That's why they are registered, right? They need to work within parameters. That's why when you ask for certain blood tests to be done, like reverse T3 or your thyroid autoantibodies, you're often denied, because they need through a hierarchy. Then they need to test a little bit. And then if that's out of range, and I'm telling you now, the range is huge. It's really large. And the range changes depending on what age, what's going on with your life stage as well, whether you're going through menopause, whether it's post-menopause, you're pregnant, the range changes, but that's not actually shown on the pathology report either. Yeah? So this is why you're denied. And I like to just cut through all that crap. Excuse my language, but cut through crap, like seriously, and save you time, save you money, save you the headache, save you the worry, to really just like, okay, let's just nut it out. Let's just get to the bottom of this right here, right now. And then from there, we dive deep. And this is all in the first pillar for thyroid wellness. We dive deep because we need to understand specifically what and essentially what the root causes are, so that we know where to shine the light. Because if we're just being dictated by the numbers, how am I then different, or how is any GP or specialist different from any other GP or specialist? Because it's all about the numbers. It's not about the numbers, ladies and gents. It's about you as a unique person. It's about you and your unique health picture. And I'm feeling myself getting fired up, and I'm just going to let it rip. Because I seriously, like, I have recently witnessed firsthand someone being mistreated through a misdiagnosis and who potentially had a thyroid autoimmune condition for 10 plus years before it was actually picked up. And do you know what else can go wrong during that time frame? Well, for example, a dysbiotic gut would clearly get way more dysbiotic. The level of intestinal membrane would be breached to even further capacity to cause, even more severe a more severe case of leaky gut. As an example, there could potentially be migration of that bacteria that goes up and causes bacterial, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Right, all of these are linked to thyroid autoimmunity, by the way. Yeah, there could be other misdiagnoses, depending on what is going on. Potentially if the liver is not okay and detoxing and actually creating a clear pathway for estrogen metabolites, as an example. Yeah, and they are actually hindering your thyroid wellness. All right, it could be that there is a level of environmental toxins or heavy metals or mycotoxins that are actually causing this imbalance, and not just imbalance, but confusion within your immune system. Because, like thyroid autoimmunity, Hashimoto's and Graves, and hypothyroidism/hyperthyroidism are really two completely separate sections. There should be two completely separate books written on those topics. Because Hashimoto's and Graves are very, very similar, even though one's at one end of the spectrum in terms of signs and symptoms, and the other one is at the other end of the spectrum in terms of signs and symptoms, which is why one can quickly swing to another. All right? And hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism is really located, it's like a dysfunction of the endocrine system, not the immune system. Yeah? So it's almost like they're completely different and they shouldn't even share the same name. Because thyroid autoimmunity is actually dysregulation of the immune system, which happens to attack the gland that is the thyroid gland. That does not then mean that those autoantibodies do not elevate with other autoimmune type conditions, which may, so for example, someone can have a very normal looking pathology on the thyroid panel, but have high TPO autoantibodies, high ANA autoantibodies, I should say, and have any other number of autoantibodies. All right. So to me, that's a red flag. That's a red flag for something really not working too well, which means there's a breach. There's a breach in the body, at the level of gut. Most likely, it could be stress response. Yeah. And then over time, what happens is these systems that are not supported very well, what happens is it just wears the body down. Really wears the body down. And that's where we get neurotransmitter imbalances and imbalances with our detoxification pathway and, everything else. Yeah. Which is why when I do a deep dive into the health history of a client, I can see very clearly what the missing gaps to that person's health picture are as a potential root cause for their thyroid well-being. And that's where we start to, uncover and really emerge through the first pillar for thyroid wellness. So the first pillar is what I call the physical realm. The physical realm is doing everything that we do on a physical level. Okay, so we look at signs and symptoms, physical. We look at the root cause, physical. We do a deep dive functional level of testing, physical. Yeah, it's all the physical layers. Okay, we look at the diet on a deep level. Yeah, it could be that, for this particular person, there's a level of sensitivity that has really been missed or underdiagnosed. So we do a food inflammatory test, which actually also shows breaches in the gut intestinal mucous membrane, which is clearly very, very linked to thyroid autoimmunity. We look at like a deep dive gut function test to see what's going on. Is there dysbiosis? Is there a parasite? Is there bacteria? Is there a yeast infection? Has that been cultured? Are there just really, really low numbers of the good gut bacteria, the good species? Meaning that, the body, and are there inflamed numbers of those particular species that tend to be high with thyroid autoimmunity? So you only know when when you have this deep dive, because symptomatology, like your signs and symptoms might be the same. Dysbiosis and gut sensitivity could have similar signs and symptoms to IBS issues. So you could be told that you've got IBS issues, but actually you've got other things that are going on that are potentially triggering or potentially setting you up for a disaster with your thyroid, right? So when you've got signs and symptoms or you've got a diagnosis, rather than then just tweak the medication and take some supplements because you've listened to some podcast or you've listened to someone that said, oh, magnesium's great for cramps, or you've listened to someone else who has said, oh, selenium is great. I've said selenium is great, but selenium can be, too much of a good thing, can be very, very harmful. Yeah. Same with iodine, too much of a good thing. It's the Goldilocks mineral. I explain this in my ebook. It's the Goldilocks mineral. We need it. Our thyroid hormones will not be created. You can't make them without it. But too much is going to be disastrous, potentially giving rise to goiter and inflaming those autoantibodies. So this is where knowledge is power. It's only then power when it's applied. All right. So we look at the physical. We look at all of those dietary elements that are potentially sabotaging factors. We do this in two ways. The first way is to really deep dive into your own health picture and get to understand what potential foods are triggering you, which foods aren't actually allowing you to thrive. Like, for example, when we have a meal, we should thrive after that meal. We should really have that buzz, that get up and go, that clarity. It's really fueling our body. If it's not fueling your body, there's a block in potentially the citric acid pathway, which is the energy cycles or the Krebs cycle. There could be a block in there, or there could be some other sabotaging factor like insulin resistance or blood sugar dysregulation or carbohydrate intolerance, or there could be any number of factors that are actually sabotaging your body from taking on that beautiful food to transform that food into energy, which you then require for renewal, for your body's renewal, for your get up and go, for doing XYZ every single day. All right. Oh, hey Sue. Sorry, let me just have a look at the comments. Great comments. Great to see you here, Sue. Fantastic. Yeah, let me know that you're here. Say hello. Drop hello. And this is really a great space for you to ask any questions as well. Perhaps you've actually been misdiagnosed or mistreated in the past or underdiagnosed, or perhaps you're wanting to learn a little bit more about what this first pillar looks like. Yeah, because it's very much what I call, it very much underpins my thyroid restoration roadmap, right? Because as I mentioned before, we really need to start somewhere. And it's about getting the facts. Hey, Deb. Oh, so great to see you here, Deb. It's about getting the facts. And the facts, the facts about your body come in two ways. They come in more than two ways, but two main ways. One is through your seat of intuition and understanding and really listening and tuning into your body to understand, and the other way is through functional testing. And then through those two pieces of information, we partner up. And through partnering up, we uncover a lot more information. For example, there could be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, which way to go. And when everything is pointing towards, say, D, we'll go down that rabbit hole to find the root cause. Okay? And along the way, there might be some little breaches in your system in which way or form. There might be some inflammation. It could be your adrenals, for example. And it could be that, when we look at your health history and when you really feel into your body, you realize that actually you don't adapt to the stresses of life all that well. And your stress response could be better. And potentially you've been living a life with low grade chronic stress forever and a day. Yeah, so when we understand and know that clinical picture, and then I then take that information and explain to you how this is potentially impacting your thyroid and causing that level of thyroid imbalance or other imbalances in your body, then we can start to map out a pathway that can really get you back on track. Get you back on track so that you can improve your resilience. Speaking about this as an area at the moment, improving your resilience, improving your stress responses, yeah, changing and flipping the way you do life. I'm telling you, it's harder than you think. It sounds easy, but when we've got this patterning that's very strong, it's like a highway of neuronal circuitry in our brain that's been dictating the way we live our life ever since we were born. It can be really difficult to break. And then when you're in a bubble or in a container where someone is not in your health picture and looking from the outside in, they can actually see what's going on and pick you up on this and pick you up on that so that you can then have that platform to make some changes, make some fundamental changes in the way in which you do things to improve your response to certain stresses. Because stress isn't the problem. It's actually your response to stress that causes and trips the nervous system. It actually is like I've said in many live trainings before, your response to stress is very similar to your excitement. Yeah. So the body just sees, oh yeah, there's something going on. There's just a rev here. So let's just secrete those hormones. All right. So when we understand the workings of our body and get that knowledge and wisdom, well, then we can, really start to improve our life, improve our responses, improve and change the way we do things. And this is just stress I'm talking about. It could be something that's hidden from you. It could be, goodness, I've done gut function tests before where I've thought everything is perfect. And I'm like, what? What's going on here? Because there is no such thing as perfect. There just is or there isn't. So it's good to have that knowledge and understanding of what's going on so that you can actually then know how to fix it and know how to plug the gaps in your health. And all of this is in the first pillar for thyroid wellness. So I'd love to ask a question here. Out of what I've mentioned, what steps have you already taken on that journey, the first pillar for thyroid wellness? It might be some dietary changes that you've made. It might be some lifestyle changes that you've made. Whether or not you've worked with me in the past, it might be something that you've done and you can see and you get that inkling and you know that you're onto something. This works. You feel it in your bones, you feel it in your thyroid, you feel it in your body. You know with confidence and certainty that this is working. Drop it in the comments. I'd love to know. I really, really love to know. Because I know that when I flipped and swapped to a gluten-free diet way back when, it made a huge difference. In fact, I grew up in the 70s, 80s, where sandwiches were just the only option for lunch, Like, who grew up in the sandwich culture? It was like, I don't know, the black stuff, Vegemite and lettuce sandwiches, whatever it is. Yeah, who grew up in the sandwich culture where you just got a sandwich to take for lunch to school? Now, I used to fall asleep. I still remember, I would have had a gluten intolerance way back then. I used to fall asleep on the bus on the way to school, let alone on the way back from school. And goodness knows how I got through that whole period of time. It wasn't until I was in my early adulthood that I actually realized and really got into health and wellness and really started to fine tune and understand. I had a lot of beautiful influences along the way. Yeah, that was the beginning of my first pillar for thyroid wellness. I didn't even know I had a thyroid condition then. However, I had already started to make some changes. Yeah, was it enough? No, of course it wasn't, because I didn't know what was going on. But symptomatically, I did make these changes and it did help. It did help some digestive issues that I had way back, right? So this is what I'm asking you to do, is just to really feel into your health chart and what steps have you already made? Because you've possibly already done some great work. Yeah. And then what I love to do is when I work with clients is, well, what have you done that's worked? Where are the missing pieces? And what is it that we still need to explore? And then we partner up and work together. And we work together over a finite period of time, even though health is not linear and isn't defined by time. We need to have a period of time just to demark the time. And we get to work. We get to work as a partnership on your health and wellness. And it's different for everybody. There are some fundamental layers that are really, really important across the board. Of course there are. However, your unique health picture for you is going to be different to someone else. Why? Because there's potentially a different driver. There's a different exacerbating factor. There's a different root cause. All right. Now, I've listed all the potential exacerbating factors in my ebook. If you've read it, what I ask you to do and recommend that you do is just even print it out and go through with a highlighter and just, okay, this is I need to look at. This is something I need to look at. And there's so much more than what's wrapped up in that ebook, right? Because I haven't talked about some other things, like, for example, Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, even COVID, right? As potential root causes or exacerbating factors. Because chicken and egg scenario, which one really come first? However, we really need to know so that we can work backwards and really heal those layers, heal those deep layers. Yeah, because it's almost like there's unfinished business there. And if those layers aren't healed and you're just really, manipulating the supplements and the medication, but you're not actually looking at those foundational layers, it's just going to get worse. It may get better. It depends on what you're doing. It depends on what you're doing for your first step for thyroid wellness, the pillar. What you're doing with your diet, your lifestyle, how you're managing stress. Are you supporting yourself as you go through that next life stage? Because we know that the life stages, especially for women, in terms of like puberty, pregnancy, menopause, postmenopause, we know that those life stages, often that's where thyroid issues arise because of that erratic change in the hormones. So if you've already got some other things underpinning what's going on with your health and wellness, and then suddenly you go through a life stage, a life change, which is actually supposed to be embraced and enjoyed, it can really throw everything on its head. It really can if you're not supported. Yeah. All right, so I would love to know, what have you done for your first pillar for thyroid wellness? If you're coming in on the replay, please do a hashtag replay. I know many of you are already embarking on this first pillar journey and embracing all that is available to you for healing your thyroid, healing your health condition, recalibrating your nervous system, recalibrating and rebalancing your gut microflora, rebalancing your hormones, improving your stress responses. And then from there, guess what we achieve? We achieve stability. Of course, we achieve improvements in signs and symptoms, but we achieve stability. And once we have stability, guess what we could do then? Then we can have that confidence and certainty to dig a little deeper and really harness the 3 other pillars for thyroid wellness, which is the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual, right? The 4 pillars for thyroid wellness is actually what brings cohesion, balance, and wellness and remission. It's not one without the other. Now, you can't just kind of like say, oh, we're only working on the first pillar, so, we won't even discuss that. Of course not. Like they all kind of infuse into each other, the layers do. However, as a first step, we really do need to honor and honor where you are at now and get that deep level of understanding and find out what the root cause is. And that's how we do it. Yeah. So if you'd like to learn more, if you're watching this live and you'd like to learn more about what the first pillar will look like for you, what I would love you to do is book a free call. Book a free call where it's complimentary. It's a 45-minute call, right? We will go through together and map out a plan for you. And from that plan, you will clearly see that this is actually the first pillar for thyroid wellness for you. And that's where we start. Whether or not you embrace that plan and the first pillar for thyroid wellness with me or not is your choice. I'm here to provide a service, and that service is something that I explain fully, and it is bespoke to you. Okay? So if that's something that you would love, if you're sick of just, not knowing or not having that support and clarity and understanding, or just being manipulated by tweaks in the medication or doing that kind of like machine gun spray of supplements, like, which one shall I take? Oh, take them all, So you're taking everything in the kitchen sink. If that sounds like you, I'd love to invite you to book a call and just type me. Just type me, whether you're coming on the replay or not, just type me, and then I'll connect with you. It's a 45-minute obligation-free complimentary call where we can really discuss what this first pillar for thyroid wellness will look like in your world. All right? And from there, you can make the decision of whether you'd like to embrace this opportunity yourself. All right, so that's it from me tonight. I hope you've enjoyed this live training, and I'll look forward to seeing you again. Any questions, drop it in the chat and I'll circle back in the coming days and come back to you. And then, of course, if you're wanting the first pillar for thyroid wellness, just drop first pillar ebook and we'll send it out to you. All right, that's it for me. Bye for now.